Welcome back to Seeking Eye. I'm here with Christine Ashton, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Christine Ashton. We're going to talk about Reiki, something that I haven't had much experience or knowledge with, so we thought it'd be a good idea to sit down and discuss what it's all about. Quite a esoteric practice, I think, in modern society. Not many people really think about it too much.
Yes, I'd agree with you. I think it was even more so when I first started. I've seen a big change in how many people know what you're talking about when you say I do Reiki.
Especially people that are willing to, accept the possibility that maybe it is effective.
Well, it's strange because, for example, I walked into the shop the other day, the charity shop, and I saw a lovely sign for sale, love, these sort of things you put on a shelf, and I said, that's lovely, that would be just nice for my treatment room. And the shop assistant said, oh, what is it that you do? And I do Reiki. Oh, do you? I'm having that. I know about that. I know that. And that happens to me at least once a week. Somebody who I just bump into. I don't know if it's chance, coincidence, but I never used to get that happening.
No, it is becoming a lot more popular in the modern day with, Eastern spirituality reaching the Western side. Of course, there is a lot of Westernized practices of Reiki and yoga and everything else, which kind of becomes a fad rather than anything else.
Yes.
So Reiki, for anyone that doesn't know, is a form of energetic treatment to help with health, vitality, and various other energetic manipulation of the human and animal body.
That's true. What you've just said is true. But when you learn Reiki, you find out that it's actually first and foremost for your own spiritual development, and it's like a benefit of that you can also help others. So where I come from is that I like to help people to help themselves. So I really like to say to people, you can learn this and then you don't need me, you can just self-treat. So that's what separates it from a lot of other treatments.
So it's kind of teaching those how the system works and how to implement it themselves, and then they can go away and continue with it themselves.
And I don't even need to teach them everything. If someone's terminally ill, for example, this has happened before, I've just given them enough to just go and do the treatments without the full history, background, and course content that I would give someone else who was well. So I think that's why I like it more than anything else that I've learned how to do, because it means that I'm not in the position of always wanting to sell you something, because my main goal is to enable you to not need me if you want to learn, and if you don't want to learn how to do this for yourself, then I'm there and you can come and see me.
And of course, in the modern time, there will be a lot of people out there that are just using it as a way of making money, and they'll tell you,
yes,
keep coming back, keep coming back, keep coming back.
Oh, yes.
And they don't have a clue what they're doing. It's a way of making money, which is a shame. But with anything in today's life, it's always the same. There will be people out there, non-genuine people out there, who are just out to make it quick, which I think is why a lot of these spiritual and esoteric subjects are often overlooked.
If someone asked me, or I was looking for a Reiki teacher now, I'd say ask that person or that practitioner, if you don't want a teacher, who they learnt from and how they can trace it back to Mikao Usui, who's the first one who started this. And also ask them, what do they do in their courses or for themselves to stay grounded and to protect themselves, and start to ask them questions like that, and you'll soon find out what kind of practitioner or teacher they are.
So getting on to the subject of Reiki itself, so in your words, how would you describe what it really entails?
The actual treatment, you mean? If I was just to talk about how it feels, you're right. So you, if you're a client who's coming for the first time, you're going to be asked to either sit down in a comfortable chair, or if you're able to lie down on a treatment table, which is usually the most relaxing thing. Do not take off any clothes at all except for shoes and earrings and things like that might disturb you. And just lie there peacefully and comfortably it might be necessary to just cover you with a blanket for that kind of security. And you can have music if you want, but you don't have to. And just take a few deep breaths so that you feel relaxed, and then give the practitioner a couple of minutes just to tune into you. I mean, I'm assuming you've already had a little chat and you've found out a little bit about each other, but there's no need for a full disclosure of why you've sought Reiki out, unless you actually feel like giving a lot of detail. My view is I don't want to have too much detail, because I don't want the person to be dwelling on what's wrong. I want the person to be thinking about how they're going to benefit. And then they, lying on their back, will feel immediately when I bring my hands down near to their head. Most people feel warmth, possibly intense heat from my hands. Other practitioners, you might feel intense cold. It doesn't have to be heat. Or it could be a feeling of a sort of like almost magnetic pull or something like that. So you'll know without opening your eyes where my hands are immediately.
So what causes these sensations then? Just the transfer of energy?
Well, the way I would explain it, there's this energy all around. When you learn how to flow Reiki, which simply means spiritual healing energy, that means that you are tapping into an infinite source of energy in this way, this particular way that Mikao Usui passed on, and you are bringing it through you with the intention that the person who's asked for it is drawing that to them. So there's no push from me, there's only pull from them. So it's completely under their control as to how much they're going to benefit and take.
So it's effectively the teacher or practitioner is making their energetic system available to the energy that the infinite energy that's available to them.
They are allowing energy to flow from the universe through them to the client. That's why the practitioner always benefits a lot as well from the treatment, because
it's flowing through
it's
them.
almost like a self-treatment as well. But also the practitioner has to make sure that they are clear on their intent and clear on cutting the connection at the end, so that it's a finite amount of time that you have that.
Yeah, and as you say, once they're open to this, they can then go on and practice opening themselves up to this source without the need of the practitioner.
Yeah, they need they need a teacher to give them that ability, because it's really mainly done purely by intent. But they need a teacher who's trained with a teacher who's trained with a teacher who's trained with a teacher who trained from Usui. That's the only thing you need to check, really, when you check your teachers. They are able to prove to you that that's how they trained. So then, after a day or two of instruction and some attunements, which is where the teacher does a connection to the energy and intents, that person is then able to continue and flow that energy for themselves. After that, and some information and guidance, they are ready to start to practice. The only way that they can really know how to do this is to practice.
As is anything else.
At the beginning, it's very disconcerting. I remember it well. When I first did my first level, I sat in the changing rooms of a swimming pool that I was at, and I just thought, I'll just try it now. And because I was in a little cubicle, no one was around, I just thought this would be a good chance to just see if I can flow this energy. And I really didn't have much confidence that I would be able to do it. And I'd been fairly angry and cross in my Reiki training. I'd felt like, what am I doing here? I must be stupid. I don't know what I'm doing here. But the first time that I got it was sitting in that little cubicle in the changing rooms, and I thought, I know what it feels like. And once I knew what it feels like, I could just do it again, but with more confidence.
So what did it feel like?
Felt like a ball. I actually was taught to create a little ball of energy between my hands to start off with and feel it get stronger. So it could be a tiny, tiny thing, or it could be a bit bigger, but the main sensation is that you can't press through it. It actually exists. And so you feel a lot of resistance.
Kind of magnetic.
Yeah,
polar.
so that's what you can feel if you do it that way. Yeah. And so if you want to, you can make that bigger and bigger and fuller, and then you can just send it.
Now, a lot of people obviously will say that all of this is in your mind, you're creating it as kind of a self-illusion, the brain's very good at doing that sort of thing. So how would you reply to them saying that, I know for a fact this isn't just in my mind, I can feel this? Obviously a lot of this thing is down to personal experience, and there's no real way to put across this experience to other people, and there'll always be people that don't disbelieve it. But how would you say to them?
Well, I think that eventually science will catch up and it will all be explained. And it might be that Reiki practitioners and all the other people who do all the other therapies, feel perhaps a bit disappointed then, because they maybe all thought that theirs was the only best way. But my take on it is there's 101 ways to access this healing energy that's out there ready for us all to tap into. We just need the way that suits us. And for me, the way that suits me at the moment is Reiki, and it has been for nearly 10 years. But I know a lot of other ways as well. And I really feel, if you just try it and don't wait until you're at death's door and nothing else has helped and the doctors have failed you, just try it before it's got to that crisis point. It can give you so much benefit, even if you're seeking relaxation or just a way of coping with temporary stress. It can just give you something that you don't need to take pills anymore so much, perhaps. You don't need to have sleepless nights anymore. And I think that if a pharmaceutical company could bottle what Reiki gives you, they'd make
a lot of money,
fortune. But because people not always are able to understand that you can have something that makes you feel better without it being some pill or tablet, because people want this instant gratification or instant cure, there are always going to be people who are afraid to believe that there's something they don't know. And there's something they don't know. And that's really not my job to tell them they need to overcome that fear. They might do it now or they might do it later. I'm there for when they're ready to overcome.
I think it's a shame that a lot of people will discount this sort of thing, stating reasons they believe it's not the case, but never actually being willing to go and try it.
Yes, I remember when I first learnt, I was at a dinner party and somebody ridiculed the fact that I was learning this. Said I was living in Bangladesh, and they said, has Dakar got room for another person doing Reiki? Because he knew who I'd been learning from, and he was ridiculing it. And I felt quite upset, and I felt quite low. But I spoke to somebody about it, and they reassured me. They said, Christine, that's always going to be the case. Always there's going to be some people who feel like that. My feeling is it's a shame, but it's not my field of expertise to convince people. It's only really what I want to do is only help people who've want
that level.
To do that. Because I feel it's very draining for me.
And it doesn't matter what you tell these people, if they don't have the personality to want to question these things, they won't, regardless, until they reach a point where something happens that maybe that forces them down that way. And of course, anything, as you say, is perfectly natural as in the human being's mindset, that anything that doesn't stick with the current understanding is going to be nonsense. And unfortunately, that's the way it is, and that's the way it was when whoever it was, I don't know, first suggested that the world was round and orbited the sun. Everyone would have been in his head, and then people started catching on board, and over time it became another fact. And of course, current knowledge doesn't mean it's right knowledge, it just means it's correct to what we can currently see. And these sort of things are now challenging it and making people maybe start to look into it a little bit more, which is what we need.
Yes, I think even if you use the placebo effect argument, I still don't feel that you've given me a valid argument not to try something, because if the placebo effect works with Reiki, isn't it better to have the placebo effect with Reiki than it is to have a placebo effect with a drug?
Yeah, that's it. And the placebo effect, to anyone that's not aware, is kind of a completely ineffective method or drug that's given with the intent that, yes, this is definitely effective, 100%, we've tried it, and because you're then expecting that to work, your brain kind of expects it to, and therefore simulates the healing effects, and which is effective, but it's created by your mind's expectation of the effectiveness rather than the effectiveness of the actual process or drug. And that is a very common argument against this sort of thing, is it's obviously just a placebo effect because it can't possibly be anything else, which in itself is false. But as you say, if it works, why do people concern themselves with how it works?
Yes, and what I'd like to focus on, really, there's lots of, especially young people, suffering with anxiety at the moment, and they don't have a lot of access to help. And I've seen this with people close to me. It takes a long time to get help. It could take half a year to get help through the system. When the help comes, it's really good and it's effective, and we do need it. But I think there's a place for things like Reiki and other things to fill that gap as well, because you can help people while they are struggling from the moment that they start to use Reiki or any healing method, I think, natural healing method. And I'd really like to see that be more widely known, that it can help so much to break those cycles and just give someone a chance to use other techniques and not go into overwhelm and not go down a spiral. So that's where I'm really interested in using what I know. I've taught both my children how to use this, and they've used it at different times and not used it at different times. So they've always got it because it never goes away. It's just a bit like when you get a hose pipe and you haven't used it for a while, and it might be a bit, gunky, and so when you might need to clean it out a bit through use. But it never goes away. So I think that's where I'm headed in terms of my own goals and aspirations, is to help people who are sort of left behind.
And of course, with teaching, you learn a lot more yourself, so you develop further on what you currently understand, and therefore help more people, and it cycles in that kind of way.
Yes.
So let's have a look at, do you want to explain to maybe people that aren't fully understood on how the human energetic body and system works? Do you want to give a brief overview of how that all functions and how Reiki can affect that?
Well, we're all walking around with our energy body, and it has different layers. Different people describe them in different ways, but we've got imagine if you were to draw an outline of your body and then go round it several more times, you can imagine layers going outwards. And that's what we can call the energy body, or we can refer it to as the aura. And when I flow Reiki, I can fill up my energy body with more and more energy. And then when I have someone with me who wants to receive energy, they are going to have their energy body and my energy body combining, and so I am going to be working within their aura or energy body. And that's also why when I finish I have to be quite clear about disconnecting, because we don't want to stay energetically connected. So I can sense how far above the body that feels to me, and sometimes there's a sense that I have to wait before I can go further, nearer to the actual physical body, so I can sense things within the aura.
And is that a case of trust from the patient, if you want to use that term? Kind of a emotional block that's blocking you from doing that? Because of course, emotions, if you've looked into all this sort of stuff, then emotions, I think, can be a block on allowing access to
with
energy.
My own experience, I can't really speak for exactly what's happening with other people, but when I've had Reiki from other practitioners, then yes, I agree, there is in certain parts of my body, there's what some people refer to as sort of maybe energetic blocks, or some old wound, maybe emotional wound, can be held in certain parts. So some people can sense those as actual sort of feelings or sensations within their hands when they do Reiki. Some people can see them. Depends on their skill level that they brought to the practice, because some people have different abilities that they've already developed before they come to Reiki, and some people discover them as a result of practicing Reiki. It can be like a side effect that you find out that you're capable of more than you knew about before you started. But that's not the goal, that's just what happens along the way, and you mustn't get too attached to all that stuff, because it can be like a phase sometimes. But going back to the point, we've got the energy centers. We can refer to them as chakras, we can refer to them, some people talk about the endocrine system.
Never heard that one.
Yeah, but they kind of coincide where we're actually aiming on the body. So when I do a Reiki treatment, I'm always noticing what's going on where these energy bodies are, and I can use a certain method to know whether they're all balanced or not. It doesn't mean after I finish that they're going to stay balanced for the rest of their life, because then things will happen to them during the day and then they'll go differently. But it'll last some time, what I've done. And some people ask me to do that specifically, although that isn't what I tell people to expect when I do a Reiki treatment, but they can ask for me to do that. The main purpose of what I'm doing is to allow the body to balance this energy that's flowing throughout, so that their natural healing ability that they've already got can function much better, so they're much better placed to either defend themselves against incoming illnesses and issues and mental challenges and so on, or they can fight what's already there. And the thing that happens is that we don't know whether the pain that they've got or the feelings that they're struggling with are symptoms of something else. So we have to keep an open mind that although they might have come to us and said, I have terrible backache and headaches, I have to keep an open mind, because I'll find out by working in the energy body where else there's something going on, and I can use Reiki to scan the whole body to find where it is that's the most receptive to this healing. And when I found that, I'll stay there for quite a while. And I might even start to remove something that is a block that I can feel, but I can't see. And when I've done that, I'll flow much more Reiki energy healing to that place because I've changed something there. So that's how I work within. I'm not touching the body at all. I'm working within the energy body. Sometimes my hands lower down onto the body and I start to do the healing with my hands on the body. It'll completely depend on the person. It's not me deciding what's going to happen next. I just know. Because of the amount of experience of doing this, I just know.
Intuitively.
I don't think anymore. And the best treatments are the ones when I just follow my hands and I just know without
having to think
conscious
about
thought what to do next.
Yeah.
So the first treatment is always the most difficult because it's much harder to get into that space because the person is kind of watchful and
defensive,
hypervigilant and wondering what's happening and possibly skeptical or maybe extremely high expectations, so can't relax, doesn't want to miss anything.
And of course, when those expectations aren't reached, they're unlikely to come back again.
Can be difficult, yeah.
It's a difficult thing. You have to go into this kind of area completely open-minded to anything that may happen or may not happen.
Yes.
To get the benefits from it. And if anything doesn't happen that you're expecting, don't class that as a failure or a proof that it's nonsense. Because
you might just be opening the door. You know, there is this kind of phrase of a sort of a door opening treatment that sometimes happens, and sometimes that's really important to just be open-minded. That might just be your first step, and then maybe a few days later, you know, you might feel some different benefits.
And of course it's important as well, I suppose, to understand that energy healing in all kind of areas, not just Reiki, isn't a cure for any kind of illness, you know, cancer or whatever. It won't cure it. So don't refuse medication and various things like this for Reiki, because... No,
on the contrary, it's quite a good idea to be aware that you might find your medicines work even more effectively because you're having Reiki, mainly because of what I said before, because the purpose is to help your body better fight
operate
or
naturally.
Operate to kick in those defences and those healing mechanisms. So you might find that you have even more enhanced effect from your medication. So you might want to monitor and let your doctor know how things are going. But that's the only point, really. Don't ever think.
Don't substitute medical science for Reiki and things like that.
And you should see from your Reiki practitioner some kind of sentence that you need to sign to that effect. To really make sure that you know that.
So effectively, Reiki isn't a form of medication itself. It's just a way of helping your body to maintain its natural defensive mechanisms it has, and making sure that it flows.
And it can be an emergency treatment as well. You don't always use it in this kind of way that we've just described. So sometimes, if you're in the middle of a extreme event, like when my house flooded, for example, and I opened the door and I saw that the basement was filling up, immediately
panic.
I was very, very frightened, but at the same time I could put my hand on my heart and calm myself down. And while I was getting help and calling for help from various services, I was also calling people who can do Reiki to get them to help me as well with the shock. So you see what I'm saying? It's not just for illnesses and relaxation. It can also be for you to get through stuff that you otherwise would be overwhelmed by.
Post-traumatic kind of effect as well. I'd imagine help with that. Post-traumatic stress disorder and various things like that, I'm sure would benefit greatly from
Yes, I have worked with people. Yes, I mean, I won't go into detail of what happened to them, but they have been the people who have gone on to do the first and the second level of Reiki because it helped them so much to cope, because that keeps coming back. And they can't be, making urgent appointments and spending money every time that those episodes affect them. So in my experience, they've really, really benefited.
As someone myself who's been living with depression and anxiety now for 10 years, I'm sure that kind of thing would have benefited me as I was going through, but this was before I was aware it existed. So from that sort of standpoint, I can understand where these people are coming from with post-trauma and how it can affect you completely unexpectedly all of a sudden. So having tools like Reiki and everything else to be able to administer themselves would be a very, very beneficial thing. Whether it's a placebo effect or not is immaterial. I don't believe it is, others will.
Well, I've had experiences where I've felt very anxious, or I've had experiences where I've wanted to change a habit, and there are various techniques that you can learn. They're very simple little recipes, for success that you can learn with Reiki, just certain hand positions and timings and so on. And once you've built up the confidence when you're not feeling stressed that they work, then you can use them when you are overwhelmed without thought, which is the main reason why it helps you, because in that situation you're not thinking clearly. You just need something that you can quickly use that worked before when you weren't feeling like that. So I think that's why it's helped me and other people, because you progress and practice before you need it. So it's there.
Good. So how would one start to looking at this kind of thing, working with Reiki? Where's the best place to start?
Well, you can look for people who are members of the Reiki Federation. You can look at their website. Definitely research what people are including when they teach you and how long they're doing the course for. I know that some people offer one day, some people offer online even, and everybody's different and they'll choose different things. But I would advise you to look for someone who tells you exactly what they're going to teach you, exactly how they learn and which teachers they were learning from when they can trace their learning right back, and what were those teachers known for as well. You can even research through the lineage of the teacher to find out what kind of Reiki they're teaching, because you'll need to know whether it's sort of original flavour, just basic Usui Reiki, which
is the foundation.
Unfortunately it's confusing, because you can have Eastern methods straight from Japan called Usui Reiki, and Western methods which came via a lady called Takata through Hawaii and America, which is more prescriptive, shall we say, and less perhaps based on intuition and intent. They're both great, but you just need to research what is it that you want. Do you want angelic Reiki, which is another thing? Do you want Tibetan Reiki? There are lots of different kinds of Reiki out there. You might find an Usui Reiki master who can do another kind of Reiki as well. That's good. I don't know what each person is looking for, but look for what that teacher includes in terms of how to self-care, how to self-protect. And if they can't give you an answer, I wouldn't choose
Look
them.
elsewhere, yeah.
Because you need to know what you can do to stay well and supported and grounded yourself, because you're going into an area that you don't understand yet.
So the different forms of Reiki, was it angelic, Tibetan, various things? What are the differences there if they're all dealing with energy? Is it the way in which they're the energy's manipulated, or is it just...
Well, it's what they've added in, really.
Right.
I mean, if you're talking about angelic Reiki, you've added in a connection to various angelic connections, shall we say. And some people may have come looking for something like Reiki with a past of dealing in that kind of belief. They might like that. Or if you're just a person who's never tried anything before, you might think, what's that? I don't want that. So you've got to decide what you want first. So if you're just going for Reiki as it started out, from Mikao Usui, who died in 1926 but trained several teachers, one of whom was Takata, then you need to know, okay, who's teaching that kind of Reiki? I'll start there.
So the likes of angelic Reiki, is that, when you say connecting to that kind of energy, is that connecting to other conscious beings, maybe out of body? In higher, and if you're not familiar with this kind of thing, do some research into different planes of existence and different levels of consciousness first before kind of discounting this. Once you get to that sort of level, you will know what we're talking about. But so this is connecting with different.
Yeah, I haven't trained
energies.
in angelic Reiki, but I would imagine that you are calling in various angelic beings when you're practicing. That's what I would imagine it is. I haven't looked into it. So.
No, I think when we say angelic beings, it's not kind of in a religious kind of angels kind of way. I think it's more just more advanced kind of conscious beings like us. We'll get to that stage eventually over a evolution of lives and lives. So yeah, I'd say don't get caught up on this whole religious angels. It's
yes, I think it's as you said. So, there are other kinds of Reiki out there. That's the main point, really, to know. So when you see the word Reiki, what you're looking at is a Japanese word that means energy healing. And it's used in Japan to mean that, whether it refers to what I'm talking about or another kind of energy healing, that is a word that means energy healing. So if you're looking for the kind of energy healing that we know in the West as Reiki, you need to be looking for Mikao Usui system of natural healing, otherwise known as, in the West, Reiki.
So effectively the word Reiki just entails every form of energetic work.
In Japan, yes, but that's not what it means here.
No. In here it is the Mikao Usui method.
I mean, Rei, you're talking about something spiritual, something from light, something that comes from the universe, some energy. Ki, the energy, is the second part of the word. So when you speak Japanese, you'll know that Rei can have many meanings and Ki can have many meanings. Yeah. So when you put them
Japanese
together,
to some extent,
you can make lots of different translations of that. You can say it's the the light that heals, or you can call it the life force energy. You can make different English translations for it.
It could also mean zero trees.
Right,
Reiki.
exactly. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
So it's a word.
It is.
in Japan that means
it's
many
the meaning
things.
That's important, and especially as things come over from the east to the west, we kind of begin to interpret it and limit it in a way.
Yes. So I think also it's good to make the point that there's a lot of knowledge still not come through to the West. Because of the nature of the way things were taught in those days in Japan, it was quite closed and people kept it more verbal. So we can take what we know from the Japanese ways of using what Usui taught and the Japanese ways of training, but we can also take what we know from how it was brought through Takata, and we can take what we know from how another guy called Hayashi taught, who was an admiral in the Navy and more interested in medicinal stuff. And you can say, well, that's all good. Which do I want to know more about? Where do I want to focus? So you can ask teachers, are they focusing more on those original Japanese methods that have come through? Are they focusing more on a sort of a Western, you do it like this, quite prescriptive, which is really great if you're a bit nervous and lacking confidence, just have exactly how you do it? Or do you want a combination of both?
It depends, I suppose, on the individual.
Yeah.
We're all different, so
That's what you
everybody
need
needs
to
a
know.
different approach.
Yeah.
So what kind of examples have you seen in your experience working with Reiki where certain ailments have been either removed or lessened as a result?
Well, as part of my training, I had to do various exercises and practices and so on. And so I could see with one client during the treatments initially, she was having a lot of problems with flashbacks, post-traumatic stress disorder. So I could see a progression because we were having quite a number of treatments over quite a long time. I was giving a number of treatments over a long time, and she was also learning. I could see the change, and I could see gradually how she was taking more and more of a sort of a driving seat approach to her life. So it was sort of moving away from feeling very I don't want to use the word victimised, but it was affecting her life in many areas, to it affecting her less and less. It still was there,
But she was beginning to take
but she
control
was
of
beginning to find ways of managing it in a more situationally appropriate way. So you can't really describe an exact instance. You could see a progression over time, and that person has done really well, really, really well.
Good.
Since. Yes, I've had to do some training in how you can sense these blocks and find them and sense how they feel and start to lessen them with some removal techniques. The sensations that you get then can be really very surprising.
Such as?
Well, you can feel a stronger and more intense flow through you, which can sometimes make you feel quite rigid in your whole body until it's released. And you can feel, as the person flowing the Reiki, you can feel your hand sort of changing and feeling more like as if it's some kind of sensor of some kind, so you can actually know what shape or what feeling that has, and you can feel it going, and you can see the person also changing in facial expression and body posture. And then when it goes, they don't see what you're doing, they're not looking at you, but at the same time as you're doing that, they then suddenly release their body posture as well. So you can't say exactly what just happened, and you're not allowed to diagnose anything, but you both know something just happened.
And I suppose without having the experience yourself, it's very difficult to conceptualise what this kind of thing feels like.
Yes, it's hard to describe actually, because sometimes it can be like a big click or a clunk that the person can actually hear, and you can even see something moving, but not so often like that. So you have to have a lot of open-mindedness, and then once you've experienced something like that, then you understand that your body and your mind are capable of far more than you knew before you started.
That's it. It's very, I think, very dimmed down the understanding of how much the mind can affect the body.
Well, we
Positive
just
thinking and
don't
everything
know,
else.
really, I don't
No.
think.
And it's a difficult one because it's not measurable, because it's not material.
I think it would be great if science could hurry up and help us understand all this stuff, but I think I'd probably be dead
before
by
that
then,
happens.
and I don't
Yeah.
want to wait.
Yeah, it is a difficult thing with science, because the science can only measure what it can measure materially.
Yes.
And it will get to that point, but of course you'll have people that are set on the current understandings and are convinced that that truth can't change or be changed later on. Because, you know, the amount we know in science about the universe and how everything works is absolutely minuscule, and very, very young as well. It's only 200 or so years old. So, you know, to anybody that believes we know everything now, and that what we currently know about the brain and the mind and the human being it's ridiculous.
Yes. I had an interesting experience. I had a really nasty cancer diagnosis in 2014, and I had to go through chemotherapy and radiotherapy, and it was a nasty business because I was practicing Reiki already, and it was against what I would have wanted to do, but of course I only had a day to think about it, and I had a family. So, but the point is, the oncologist who I was seeing actually said to me at one point that he asked me what it was that I did, and I was explaining to him, and he said that he knew that certain people, patients who came to him, had a different sort of, he didn't use the word aura, but a different sort of energy about them than others, and he was interested to know, you know, why that should be. You know, he'd noticed something that he couldn't understand.
It, yeah. Intuitively, you can sense these things.
So, you know, it was interesting that although he couldn't, you know, explain why he thought that, it was interesting to me that it's food for thought. If we can find out more about all of this and actually use it all alongside other treatments,
yeah, it would be very beneficial.
It would be very good.
I mean, from what I understand, it's a case of the more subtle energy bodies of the human beings interacting with each other. It's in the same kind of way you can walk up to someone and instantly feel that this person's a threat, and you don't want to be there, or you look at a certain pathway at night and you think, I shouldn't go down there. Somebody's telling me don't go down there, and it's just, I think, an interaction of energy fields which are kind of interfering with each other and giving you these interactions, and it's a very, as I say, it's a very, very difficult one, because it's not a tangible, measurable, repeatable thing. So science will never, materialistic science as it is, we're getting close with quantum mechanics, I think, but as you say, it's going to take years and years to reach that level.
Long.
And at the moment we're only relying on people's experiences, which people are often, things I hear so often is anecdotal evidence doesn't count as evidence, which in my view is nonsense. But you know, in terms of repeatable, measurable, tangible measurements, it can't really be done yet. But that's not to say it won't ever be.
Yes, it's I don't think you can do a very scientific study into how Reiki works at the moment, because we haven't got anything, I don't think, to measure this flow of energy, I don't think. So
all you can rely on is, if you want to find out about this sort of stuff, is go and try it out. Get your own experiences on it. Don't discount it straight away because you think you understand it. Go and find out, because it might surprise you what you experience. If it doesn't, fine. But if it does, that's a potentially life-changing experience.
yeah, I'd say if you can afford, you know, to have a night out, you can afford to try this out. And you know, it's the same kind of investment. So you're not going to lose a lot. If you can just do that, spare an hour, or maybe twice, spare an hour, you know, you might be very surprised.
And even if you don't have any ailments or pains or anything, it can still make huge differences in life if it does effectively work for you.
I've had people, you know, who've been given a gift voucher by a friend and have tried it, and they just couldn't believe, how relaxed they felt at the end of it. It's quite like if anybody's done yoga and you come into the class really buzzy and stressed and you've had a busy day, but you leave the class like you're on a little cloud and you're floating along. It feels quite similar to that feeling if you're just going for relaxation.
And I did yoga for a little bit in classes. I didn't have the time to pursue it, but you can notice a difference. I mean, yoga as a practice is normally nowadays, especially in these Western countries, is all about postures and things like that. But of course, yoga goes a lot deeper than that, as does anything else. But effectively, I think what the best piece of advice we could give to anybody would be: don't believe what we're saying. Don't believe what anybody tells you. Go out and try it out yourself.
I would do that. Yes, yes.
So you say that, of course, as all, if you hear the dogs barking outside, then forgive them. They're very big-mouthed. Of course, because every form of life on Earth is connected energetically to Source. Some people call it God. That Reiki can benefit animals as well as human beings.
Yes, it can. You've got to be a little bit careful in this country as a practitioner because you need the vet's permission. But that being said, there are vets who will give permission and you can find out, how to do that. But I have worked in countries where that wasn't the case, because I've lived in a lot of different countries, and I've helped various different animals. And what you find with animals is you just sit and you start to flow this energy towards the animal. You don't need the animal to be right next to you. So it doesn't matter if it's an animal bites or, is vicious or poisonous or something, because you don't actually have to be completely next to it. But when you start, within a few minutes, the animal comes to you and starts to sniff your hands and starts to try to know what's going on. And when they haven't really understood or seen properly what's going on, they just kind of shrug and sit down right next to you and wait for more. And then when they've had enough, they just get up and walk away. And it's a lot shorter than a treatment with people because they are smaller, I suppose. And it's a lot simpler because they don't come with all these different sort of resistances and so on.
That's right, yeah.
So I've helped animals, particularly animals who are going to die, and the owner wanted them to just die peacefully at home. I've done several treatments for a friend's pet that way. And I've also had funny experiences where I've done a Reiki treatment for someone with Parkinson's, and there were 2 cats. I knew there were 2 cats in the house, but all of a sudden one of the cats just jumped up on the table and sat on the treatment table and just lay down and received the treatment at the same time as the owner.
Cross-connecting.
And it was so funny. So you do find that the animals, if they're around and you're doing a treatment for a person, they come. So if someone's got a cat, the cat will come.
So what's the benefit of offering Reiki treatment to this terminally ill dog?
Oh, just it was to do with transition. It was to do with a peaceful transition.
This is the transition of the energy out of the physical body after physical death.
Yes, you need to research a little bit about, about how animals transition. I did a little bit of research into it, and there are some stages to it. So once you've understood that, you would understand why it's very beneficial if you have a few days when you know, to have this healing energy to help.
I imagine the transition is similar to how humans experience transition. Is that the case?
Well, I don't know if it's exactly the same. I got the impression it might be slightly different, but I haven't researched it enough to comment.
It may be different in the fact that the human mind is going to have all this crap, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
And animals being completely innocent will just follow however nature is without expectations of heaven or hell or nirvana or whatever.
Yes, I think that would be what I would say.
Yeah.
The main thing with the animals is that it's very simple and it's shorter. So whatever you would do for a person, as I said before, the first treatment, it can be a little bit tense for the person because they don't know what to expect and so on. That's not the case with the animal, because the animal just knows it's nice and just comes and sits.
Regardless, yeah, that's right, yeah. So what about plants?
Yes, you can. You can do experiments where you do Reiki for some plants and not for the others, and you can see differences. People have done that and see differences in how they grow.
And people might think, people that are sceptical or haven't really looked, they might think it's ridiculous doing Reiki for plants, but effectively anything living follows the same energy.
It's all got the same energy.
All the same energy.
Yeah. If you want to talk about this sort of thing, you can do it for situations, and you can do it for your past experiences. I'm talking about Reiki now. You can't change the past experience, but what you do is you sit quietly and you think about this situation with the intent of sending healing to it, and it changes how you feel about it. So if you've had a upsetting experience or an embarrassing experience or a failure feeling about something, you can sit and do Reiki for those experiences with the intention that it feels that you've let it go, and that you did the best at the time, and you learned something, and that kind of intention can be around it. And you can do that for every year of your life if you want. That was part of my Reiki training. I had to go back through my whole life and do that, so that you're clear when you start to help other people. And you can do it forwards. You can say, I'm going to have an interview, I want to think about the situation, and I want to do Reiki now with the intention that that situation in the future is this way or that way. So you don't have to limit it in any way, because we don't know what's possible. So if you can imagine it, you can try it.
It's possible, yeah, of course. And nothing is impossible. In theory, anything's possible. It's just a case of discovering it, I suppose. Not being afraid to try and discover it.
That's right. So you don't have to limit it to things you know about and things that you can actually feel or see. You can extend it, almost like people use prayer. Actually, it's quite similar in the way that people who have a religious faith use prayer. Reiki doesn't need a religious faith, and it's not attached to a religious faith, but it can be used sort of like an intention to have things a certain way, phrased as if it's already the case, but applied to the future. You can use Reiki for that.
Okay, so talking about your practice specifically, so what is it you do exactly? Do you run a class, or do you do individual?
I do a few things. I can take clients at home, and I can go to people's homes with what I call a mobile treatment for Reiki. I can also do Bowen therapy, and I can also do Bowen therapy with a sort of Reiki element to it. If people already know what Reiki is, they sometimes ask me to do that as well. The other thing is teaching people how to do Reiki, and also running workshops where I give some insight into various elements of spiritual development, things like creative visualization, how to do affirmations, things that people have probably heard of but they don't really know much.
Yeah.
So people who are on the first steps, I like to do a couple of hours mini workshops, and those are usually with just a little donation, and we meet together as a group called the Whatnot Club, the Whatnot Club for Like-Minded Souls. And I also teach workshops on the philosophy of Louise Hay, who's famous for her book Heal Your Life. So those are what you might call self-actualization techniques. They're very simple techniques, and it's either done as a mini workshop, it can be done as a 2-day workshop, and it can be done as a 2 hours for 10 weeks workshop. But the basic thing is you come together and you explore, why you are like you are, what you can do to change how you are, and how you can look at your thoughts and why they are the way they are. And what
it's kind of a form of self-taught cognitive behavioural therapy.
Very much a self-help method of awareness and change.
So effectively, if you're experiencing something like anxiety or depression or any form of post-traumatic thing, and you're finding that things aren't effective for you, then this is one thing maybe you can look at looking into. It might not help, it might help.
Well, that's how I started, and when I looked at Louise Hay, I wanted help with various things that I found really, really difficult. And Louise Hay and Reiki were the things that got me through the hardest times in my life. And if I hadn't had them, I don't really know what I would have done instead. I think it would have been really, really difficult. But because I had them, I knew that it was tough, but I had something to rely on.
That's right. But it's just saying that because it works for you doesn't necessarily mean it will work for everybody. So if it certainly try Reiki practice and things like that.
And if it doesn't work, try another thing.
Try the next thing, because everybody's different. Everybody has different things.
Yes.
Cognitive behavioural therapy never worked for me. It worked for millions of other people. Meditation worked for me, but doesn't work for many other people. So if you're going through something that's difficult time with depression or with a post-traumatic disorder, try it. And just if you're around people that say it's just for nutcases and it's not real, try it. What have you got to lose?
Yes, I would say so. Yes. And I don't think that you'll regret it, because nothing ventured, nothing gained. And if you don't like it, you can just walk away, can't you? After an hour, you've only lost an hour.
And you might not just find that it helps you physically or mentally. You might come out finding a completely new outlook on how life works.
You might be very surprised.
You might, yeah. And that might lead you down your own path of self-discovery and change your life just from the fact of fancying going and trying a bit of Reiki. Might change your whole life.
Yeah, you might have wished you'd known about it earlier.
That's right. So don't be limited by the beliefs you currently have, because beliefs can change.
Yes. It's only a thought, and a thought can be changed.
That's it. All beliefs are just thoughts that have been passed down to you by somebody else who also believed in something.
Exactly.
So where can people find you?
www.untiethestring.com.
I'll put a link.
Called that because of the connotations with tying ourselves in knots and having blocks and trying to release things. So on that website you'll find the description of the Reiki, a description of the Bowen, and a description of Heal Your Life, and there'll be a contact form on that, and you can use that to get in touch, or you can email me at healing@untiethestring.com.
Fine. I'll put a link to the website in the YouTube video and also on the blog. So if you're interested in looking at this sort of thing and you're in and around the Bedford area, which is where you're based, aren't you?
You can be. I do mobile treatments within 20 miles of Cambridge. So I also travel to do courses. I've done courses I've done treatments and workshops in the Bluntisham and Bortisham and the southwest of Cambridge, lots of different places. So if there's 4 of you, I'll go somewhere like that and do a course.
Fine. So if you're around this area and you're looking to Reiki a bit more, then visit the website.
That's right.
Again, thanks very much, Christine, for offering to do this.
Thank you.
Certainly very interesting. To say Reiki's not something I've ever really looked into, but I'll have to start looking into it a bit more.
Well, I shall give you a gift voucher.
That'd be great. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you in the next. What the hell was it? Sound like a clown horn. See you all in the next video.
Yes, indeed. Oh,